Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show, where we get to the heart of why you overeat and how to stop. If you struggle with food and weight like I did, welcome home.
Welcome everybody to the Heal Your Hunger Show. So happy to have you here. It is a great day to be alive, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. There is no better time than right now to experience good. And there's so much good around us. We just have to see it. So I'm really, really happy that you joined me here. I'm excited about today's topic, inspired by a little news article I saw today. But before I get into that, I just want to say, if you're here for the first time, welcome. So glad that you found the Heal Your Hunger Show. This is where we talk about all things having to do with really the underlying causes of emotional eating. And if you don't relate to being an emotional eater, guess what? You can take a quiz on my website, healyourhunger.com, and find out. You can literally find out if you're an emotional eater or a food addict or somewhere in between. So definitely go to healyourhunger.com and take the free quiz and find out where you stand on the spectrum. If you know you're an emotional eater, well, of course, you're in the right place here. But you know, it's really about addressing the underlying causes of emotional eating. That's really what has to happen if you expect to have lasting weight loss. You know, if you've been chasing your tail for decades or years and you're sick and tired of all the dieting and the one diet after another and losing and gaining and all that, I totally get it. I did that. I was 50 pounds overweight and I tried so many different things to lose weight, and nothing stuck because I was going at it the wrong way. I was basically barking up the wrong tree. And so that's why I'm so excited about the Heal Your Hunger Show, because here's where we get down to the real issues. The things that are going to make a difference are going to help you stop going to the refrigerator, stop, diving into the food time and time again when you have tough feelings, when life feels overwhelming to you. There's definitely a better way. So that's what we talk about here. So welcome. And if you haven't joined us in the Secret Sauce group, definitely check it out on Facebook. Type in the Secret Sauce to End Emotional Eating and join us there, because there's where we continue the conversation. And I have guest interviews on there, hot off the press, also announcements, and just great support. Nobody can overcome emotional eating on their own. I know you want to. I know you want to figure it out, read the books, listen to the programs, and just kind of do it on your own and never tell a soul that you ever struggled with food. But guess what? It's not the way it works. I need support. I still, to this day, I'm into this 32 years. I get daily support by connecting with other emotional eaters, many of whom are my own clients. We have amazing calls together. That definitely nourishes my soul as well as it does others, who are on the calls. But, doing this alone is the hard way. And my experience is it's not very successful. So thank you for being here. Thanks for joining us in the Secret Sauce group. If you want to fast track your results, definitely connect with me, and we can have a conversation about how you can do that. So really, really happy to have you here. And I want to talk today about something I saw when I was looking at my little news feed today. And gosh, it really struck me. It was very, it struck me so heavily. It's just this little thing. It's kind of a report on COVID stuff. It said theme parks in Japan have banned screaming on roller coasters because it spreads coronavirus. And this is reported in the Wall Street Journal. And they advise riders instead to scream inside your heart. Okay, so people who go on these roller coaster rides, in order, they didn't shut down the roller coaster, they got the rides going, but in order to not spread coronavirus, they're saying scream inside your heart. Which, first of all, let's be honest, that sounds really hard. Okay, when you're on a roller coaster and you feel like you're turned upside down, which sometimes roller coasters will do that. The last thing you're going to do is hold in a scream. But the reason why I wanted to talk about this today, I mean, this is kind of an oddball thing that I'm talking about here, but I wanted to talk about it because I literally got a visceral reaction when I read that. Scream inside your heart. on the one hand, it's kind of sweet. They're telling people scream inside your heart, acknowledging that, we have a heart, and that heart isn't just a physical heart, but it's an emotional heart as well. So that's kind of sweet. But the idea of screaming inside our hearts, I thought of that and I thought, I did that for years. Like, I screamed inside my heart for years. And if you're an emotional eater, that's kind of how it goes, right? I mean, we are screaming inside our hearts. We're not letting it out. We're not using our voice. We're not being heard. We're not acknowledging and expressing our pain. And instead, we're shoving it down with food. So that's what comes to mind for me when I read that about screaming inside our hearts. Very hard to do and very, very painful. So I cannot imagine being on a roller coaster ride and not screaming and being told not to scream. I don't think I'd want to go if that's, if you have to squelch that scream, that does not sound like a fun time to me. And it sounds like almost impossible to do. And, screaming is definitely usually involuntary, when you're doing something as exciting and crazy as a roller coaster ride. So, and over the years too, my recovery has sort of revealed my voice. I mean, I've started to use my voice on my road of recovery, and I teach my clients to use their voice and to speak up and express their pain, and and not stuff it obviously anymore with food. And they're doing it, and it's working. It's enabling them to stop emotional eating. So this idea of expressing ourselves is so, so important. And over the years, regarding screaming, anytime I'm watching a movie and something scary happens, I just let out this scream. Like, you will hear me in a movie theater. It's like, I'm the one who is like, I scream, I yell. It's definitely involuntary. I don't mean to do it. But I've become expressive in my life and journey of recovery. It's just like, I don't hold stuff in anymore. I just let it out. And it's wonderful. Now, I don't scream at people. I'm not mean or rude, so I don't mean that kind of screaming. But, and act like just strong feelings, they just come out of me as expression, self-expression. And what's interesting to me is early on in my life, I grew up going to church, and the church was in the Northeast, and it was very, very traditional, very conventional. We were very reserved. It's New England. New England, just very reserved people. And it was a Protestant church, and we just, there was very little expression. And even in my family, we were English, and so we were just very buttoned up, and no expression. I used to say, like, nobody in my family could fog a mirror. Like, we just didn't have a strong expression of feelings. That's kind of how I got into the fix I got into in terms of stuffing down my feelings with food. Is just, I did not know how to let it out. But anyway, regarding church services that I would go to, the pastor would be at the pulpit, doing the sermon. And then at some point in the sermon, he does announcements. And the announcements often included joyful information, like Susie and George had a baby boy, his name is Trevor, or whatever, or they so-and-so, have just moved to town, let's congratulate them, or whatever. But at the same time that they're expressing, the pastor was talking about something joyful, there was an unspoken rule that you don't clap in church, like you don't express joy in church. And this did not sit well with me. As a 7-year-old kid, 8-year-old kid, I knew in my heart of hearts that was messed up, and I thought to myself, if we're supposed to be happy for this person, but we're not supposed to clap or make any noise, what's up with that? And why is there this rule anyway that you're not supposed to make noise in church? I just thought that cannot be right. And I especially thought that cannot be God. And so this is my little divine spark, coming to light here, where it didn't sit right with me. I just thought there's something wrong with that. Like, if we have joy, we should be making a loud noise. And I believe it says that in the Bible, actually. My Bible scholar listeners will know better than I will. Make a joyful noise. Make a joyful noise. And that's what your body wants to do. That's what your spirit wants to do. So this idea that we had to stay really quiet and just kind of, it's like we were all sitting on our hands going, when he'd say something happy and joyful, because we're screaming inside our hearts. We're tapping it, tamping it down. And it just seems so wrong to me. And I was right. It was wrong. In my opinion, it was wrong. And I've spent a lifetime learning, or relearning, if you will, this rule and making a new rule, which is when I feel joy, I express it. When I feel love, I express it. I have as many of you know, I have a boyfriend now of over 6 months. And one of the things I love about this guy is I can be completely expressive with him. And I just, and I'm that way because I'm a joyful person. This is because I've healed from emotional eating and I've, there's a lot to be happy about, and I'm not hurting myself with food by the grace of God, one day at a time. And so I just feel joy a lot. I'm not, darkened by the terrible compulsion to overeat, which I understand that compulsion like nobody's business, as you know. But the point is, with my guy, when I feel love, I like to, he's kind of a big guy, large, tall, 6'3" guy. I like to crawl on him. I like to, sit on his lap and, just kind of kiss him and be joyful and happy and silly. And he's always receptive. He's always receptive. So that's just on a personal note. That's one of the things I love about him is he never rejects me. He never makes me wrong for my expression of joy and love. And I love that because I'm in a place in my life where I just need that. I need to be as joyful and loving as possible, and to never feel like I'm going to be rejected for that, or there's something wrong with me for that. So that's a little aside. But the bottom line is we need to express ourselves. We need to be joyful. We need to be free to be ourselves. And the problem with food, as I experienced so many years of my life, is that we are screaming, when I was hurting, when I was suffering with disordered eating, it was because I was screaming inside my heart and not expressing myself on the outside. And this is really what I just want to be here and remind you to do, which is to start expressing yourself. When we're eating, when we're in the middle of a binge or binge mode where the binge is going on for several days, when we're obsessed with food, when all we can think about is the next binge or the next ooey gooey chewy food that we want to eat, things are dark and we suffer, and that suffering is so painful, so painful. I lived there for years, and the problem is, when you're an emotional eater, it's a chronic condition. So you may lose weight here and there, but, typically you're putting it back on. I mean, I talk to women every day who have been on this roller coaster ride for decades. And the problem with it, I think the problem with being an emotional eater is that we can still survive. We can still get by in life. Okay. So we can still do our jobs. We can still, run a household. We can still do creative things. We still exercise. There's lots of things we can do. Still, be part of a community or a church or whatever. It's just that we're not showing up as our beautiful, joyful selves. And so the problem with the fact that we can still do it is that we live a marginalized life. We still walk through life doing things, but we're so not happy. We're so not joyful, and we are screaming inside our hearts. And the problem is because there's no big consequence, like nobody stops and says something's terribly wrong, you have to fix it. We just muddle through. We muddle through and we get conditioned, or we condition ourselves to be okay with a compromised, marginalized life. And I will tell you, when we're obsessed with food and it's all about food and we're obsessed with our weight and it's all about how can we lose weight or how can we cover the weight up or how can we get rid of the weight, it is a constant obsession and it robs us of our joy. It robs us of our freedom. It robs us of the ability to truly be present with the people we love. But we get used to that. And we do that for years, you know, because we're screaming inside our hearts. We're screaming inside our hearts. We're keeping that scream muffled with food, with carbs and with sugar and other, you know, fats and stuff like that, you know, and we just suffer. So I'm really here to say, please stop suffering. Stop being okay with a marginalized life. Stop screaming inside your heart, because you so deserve more. You so deserve more. And if the reason why you're suffering is because you haven't reached out for help, because you're determined to do this on your own, I hope you will make a new decision on that. I hope you will renegotiate that decision, that stubbornness that you're going to do this on your own. You're not going to tell anybody about it. You're not going to let anybody know you're suffering. You know, the first step to stopping screaming inside our hearts is to scream outside our hearts, you know, to let that scream out, to tell somebody, I'm hurting, I am suffering. You know, I talk to women who don't feel safe to say that because they have people around them who don't understand emotional eating. They have a spouse who's like, just eat less and exercise more, because he's not an emotional eater. He doesn't get it. You know, that's tough, because you feel so alone and you feel misunderstood and you feel probably judged, you know? And so it's so important to be in a place where you're safe to let it out. And if you are around people who don't understand, either your kids or your spouse, get with people who do understand, who can validate the suffering and understand it and help you walk on a path to freedom. Because screaming inside your heart is so, so bad. You know, it's bad. It's a bad thing to do. And I don't mean to use such a kind of a dumb word, but it's not who you're meant to be. It's not who God means for you to be. You know, make a joyful noise. Make a joyful noise. And at first, you know, that joyful noise has to be not a joyful noise, but a noise of, you know, suffering, expressing the fact that you are suffering. Acknowledge it, admit it, talk about it. You know, I would love to talk to you. If you want to have a call with me, you can go to my website and schedule that. I'm happy to be the first person you tell, you know, and tell that you're suffering, you know. And the fact is, once you acknowledge it and you stop being okay with suffering, then you can start on a new path of healing. So I just really want to stand for you and just say, you know, like, enough is enough. Stop suffering. Stop screaming inside your heart. Take a new path. Reach out for help. You know, tell somebody. Talk about it. Tell your spouse, even if your spouse doesn't understand, but obviously your spouse can't help you. So reach out for help from somebody who can, because you deserve joy. You deserve joy. You deserve self-expression. And it's so fun, you know, more than ever in my life. I just tell it like it is. I'm very direct in my life, you know, with people around me. I just don't beat around the bush, and not everybody appreciates it. So, you know, but I do have, you know, I have people in my life who generally do, you know, they ask me for my opinion and I tell them. I just tell them. I don't say it with judgment. I don't say it with any kind of meanness. I tell it like it is, you know, because why not? Why not? You know, the shortest distance between 2 points is, you know, the way to go, because I don't want to beat around the bush, and I don't want to waste time, you know, going down the garden path, you know, a path that will lead me to more suffering. So I want that for you. I want you to, you know, just really start expressing yourself, start letting somebody know you're in pain, and then of course take action to heal, because you deserve to have the better life. The life that you're not giving yourself if you're struggling with food and weight and insisting on figuring it out on your own, which you've probably been trying for way too long. So make a joyful noise. Stop screaming out inside your heart. You know, don't get on that roller coaster one more time. Gosh, what a great metaphor, isn't it? A roller coaster ride where you scream inside your heart. I mean, that is that is the weight loss journey, right? The yo-yo dieting journey that I was on, and chances are you're on too. So thanks for listening. This is just a little message, just a little reminder. It's time to make a change. I'm just really here to stand for you and for you doing something different. I know you're afraid. I get it. It's scary to do something new. Don't do another diet. That's not new. That's old. That's old news. It doesn't work. 98% of all diets fail. But take new action that can actually help you get out of that suffering and pain. Okay, thank you. Hope this is useful. I love you so much. And feel free to drop me a line. Send me an email. You can email me directly. I read my emails. I'm not a big shot. I'm happy to hear from you and happy to respond. So Tricia@healyourhunger.com. Love you, love you, love you. And I'll see you in the next show. Take care.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to get free support, insider health info, exclusive invites to events, and more, visit healyourhunger.com.